On a cold Melbourne night, a 19-year-old woman named Isla Bell disappeared. On October 5th, she walked into a St Kilda East apartment. According to police, she never walked out alive. What began as a standard missing person inquiry rapidly accelerated. Detectives began compiling a massive trail of digital evidence, scouring security footage, tracking a missing refrigerator, and eventually searching industrial waste sites. The search reached a devastating conclusion when human remains were discovered. 2 men were arrested, and the primary suspect was formally charged with murder. For Isla's family and a concerned public, finding her body offered a grim sense of finality. The physical search was over, and a standard murder trial seemed entirely guaranteed. But in May 2026, the prosecution made a jarring announcement. All murder and manslaughter charges against the primary suspect were dropped. Police had assembled an extensive timeline of physical movements, text messages, and post-incident logistics, yet none of it was enough to sustain a homicide case in court. The legal system draws a strict line. Proving that someone concealed a body is entirely different from proving they caused the death, and in this case, science could not provide the exact biological mechanism of death. Locating Isla Bell's remains did not secure a homicide conviction. Instead, it exposed a legal reality where physical recovery can actually complicate the path to prosecution. To understand why the case collapsed, we must look at the exact timeline police successfully built. On October 5th, Isla Bell entered her host's St Kilda East apartment. The following night, she sent a text message to a friend, referring to the man hosting her as the best Russian sugar daddy. At 12:43 a.m. on October 7th, security cameras inside the apartment captured a physical confrontation. Police noted that Bell fell to the ground, and the suspect struck her. From that point on, investigators tracked a massive cleanup effort. They alleged the apartment was heavily sanitized, and a refrigerator was removed from the property using a vehicle and trailer. Detectives then mapped local sanitation grids, identifying specific municipal rubbish trucks that had collected bins in the Bentley area shortly after the incident. That logistical tracking led to this waste processing facility in Dandenong, where investigators discovered her remains. The investigative work was highly effective. Detectives successfully reconstructed the post-incident logistics, mapping out how the suspects attempted to conceal the evidence. But once the remains were transferred to the laboratory, the homicide investigation hit a severe roadblock. Forensic pathologists faced 2 major complications. First, the remains sustained extreme physical damage from the waste processing machinery. Second, toxicology screens revealed a complex mixture of illegal and prescription drugs in her system. In a murder trial, the legal system operates on a rigid scale of proof. A timeline of suspicious behavior is not enough. The prosecution must establish specific criminal elements, proving an exact, deliberate action that ended the victim's life. Because the medical examiners could not conclusively differentiate between fatal blunt force trauma and a fatal drug overdose, the legal burden of proof for murder remained empty. The brutal condition of the victim's body, caused by the disposal effort, became the exact legal shield protecting the suspect from a homicide conviction. Faced with this forensic gap, prosecutors had to abandon their strategy of proving a homicide. Looking at this timeline, the state restructured its case. The suspect is now charged solely with attempting to pervert the course of justice. The legal focus shifted away from the loss of life onto the subsequent actions involving the refrigerator, transport, and disposal. When medical science cannot confirm the mechanics of a fatality, the justice system is left with only one tool: prosecuting the concealment. The proceedings are ongoing. In July 2026, the court rejected the defense's attempt to halt the remaining charges, ensuring the case moves forward. But for the family and the journalists tracking every court date, the legal process offers very little emotional resolution. Despite recovering her body and identifying a prime suspect, the absolute truth of her final moments remains completely legally unsettled. In criminal law, successfully locating the missing person does not automatically solve the case. Often, it merely introduces a much darker set of questions.